Knocked down by Furious George.
Get him, Cal, get him.
They elect to go for the long toss. It goes out of bounds, and it'll be Ottawa Wax disc.
Furious there set up with a zone for 4 passes and melted back to a man defense. And we were talking to the captain earlier, and he was speaking how, I guess Jeff Cruikshank, and he was telling us how they'll often do that. They'll start off in a zone and melt into man just to confuse the offense.
Mix things up a little. I think the point is to confuse the other team, not their own.
Seems to work better that way as a tactic, I think. And here's Ottawa Wax working out of the corner of their own end zone. Knowles makes a nice catch. Now Hoover down the sideline. Hoover running for it, and he will have to hurry, but he can't get there in time.
The wind just caught that disc and it sailed away.
So the Knowles-Hoover connection, we saw it work earlier. They're trying to go at it again and tie this game up.
Knowles is primarily used as a receiver, not as a thrower. And that's why you'll see those long throws sometimes go away.
The demo guy would like to return your ID to you. So please.
Here is Kai Fu.
Demo cleats.
Fu, Nichols, down the sideline. He finds Evan Wood. Wood being watched by Hoover. He'll continue down the left sideline. Now they'll try and go to the end zone, and a catch almost made by Mike Enns, and he had the 3-1 lead on his fingertips and couldn't come up with it, and he comes up a little bit injured after that attempt. And here's a replay of it.
Very uncharacteristic Furious play. 9 out of 10 times this will be caught.
Perhaps still a case of nerves in the first few points of this game.
So Mike Enns seems to be all right. He will stay in the game. And now Wax will go on offense. And a turnover in the Ottawa Wax end zone. So Furious George takes it to the line of the end zone, and they will work on offense here. They go back to Kai Fu, and a foul called. So we wait for them to start it up again. Kai Fu into the end zone. Hoover knocks it away. A great defensive play by Jamie Hoover, who has been one of the bright spots for Ottawa Wax here in the early going.
You can tell the Wax handlers are nervous, but their game will get better.
Here is Tether.
It's right now a check disc. They're just making sure this disc is good and flat.
When that disc was defended, it got a little crushed.
And here is Ayub. Ayub with his pass up to Pound. Now Pound looking for Knowles. Knowles makes the catch on the right sideline. Knowles back to Tether. Tether slips and falls down, gets up, recovers quickly. They go to Hoover. Hoover back to Tether. Now they go to Ayub on the left sideline. Ayub looking for an outlet pass. He finds one in Knowles. Knowles makes a great reception, falling to his knees. Now back to Ayub as they work it back to the middle of the field. Back to Tether. Tether up to Knowles again. Knowles, as Hoover looking to get open. He does get open. Makes the reception in the middle of the field, about 15 yards from the end zone. And now a pass to the corner of the end zone, too far for everybody and out of bounds, so it'll be Furious.
This was a foul called on that backhand release, so this will go back to thrower.
So Hoover will get one more shot at it here.
The defense will have to check the disc in and play resumes.
So here is Hoover. Back to Ayub. Everybody pretty much covered right now. Somebody's going to have to cut. Knowles attempts one. Now Tether will handle it. Tether, his pass, caught. And now Ottawa Wax working down the right sideline. Back to Ayub. Ayub makes the catch. Ayub going towards the end zone. And now they're looking to the back end, and this will be out of the end zone. And the defender fell down, so Ottawa Wax failing to capitalize on an opportunity there.
The big difference between Furious and Wax's game is Furious will often run off flow. That is just what they can create on the moment, where Wax really has set plays. That was a set play, but the wind caught that disc.
And now Furious will walk it to the end zone line.
Furious George has just called a timeout.
So Furious George electing to talk things over. They lead by 1. And in the opening, we were speaking about how they should be up by a lot more at this point, but Ottawa Wax, give them credit. They've hung in here, Menno.
Yes, they have. It's been an exciting few points already. We talked earlier about the wind as a factor in this game. It seems to be changing directions quite a bit, so affecting some of the throws and some of the position on the play of the players. We saw that in the last point.
Often a player will try and keep the face of the disc, that is the part where the label is, into the wind. That'll keep the disc down. With a swirling wind like we have now, you just can't read the wind. Especially when you're running, you don't know which way it's coming from. So often you'll see a disc sail away like that.
It's what makes the game of Ultimate interesting, is the fact that your disc flies. Unlike a ball that's just thrown.
And so do some of these players. As we were watching in the warm-up, they can certainly get up there in a hurry.
They sure can. I don't know how much this helps Wax taking this time out. Furious obviously wants to talk it over to get it down. This is a big point again for Furious, but they're letting Wax rest their best players right now. Wax only has so many good players that they can put on the field that can compete at Furious's level. So right now, Wax is getting a good chance to rest, get a good defense, and then score it in.
The disc is down at the end zone line. Furious George is going to have to work it up the whole length of the field to get into their own end zone. So they may be concocting some strategy.
They could be. I talk about how Wax has only so many good players. We're talking at the world level. Wax is the national champs, and in Canadian Ultimate, they really do have one of the best teams. Between Wax and Toronto, there's obviously the best players. Right now, Furious is just setting up their stack offense.
Looks a little bit like a rugby lineup here.
I'm talking to you.
And Furious George working it to the sideline. Wide open was Evan Wood. A little bit of miscommunication on the defense there by Ottawa. Now it comes back across to Kai Fu. Fu to Mike Enns. Enns. And a catch made. A nice one by Mike Grant. He's being guarded by Peter Knowles, and now here is Wood. Wood looking for the end zone. He will spin out of trouble. Back to Kai Fu. Kai Fu being watched by Trevor Pound. Now Kai Fu into the corner of the end zone. Catch made, but not quite in there. By Mike Grant. And there's some dispute there as to whether...
Wax is calling him out right now, so they're checking the play. Again, this is where spirit of the game comes into it, which is so interesting in Ultimate. What will probably happen here is that it'll go back to throw in the reset. There is an argument, so they'll just forget that last throw and go right back in.
So they're debating that right now as to whether he was in or out of bounds.
The big debate is that when a foot is on the line, that's considered out. Callahan rule is what we're using today, and any foot on the line is considered out. So right now there's a discussion going on about it.
We saw it earlier in the play where the player managed to keep his feet in bounds, caught the disc, and then his body fell out of bounds, and that's still a valid play. But in this case, a toe may have been out of bounds. They're discussing it.
What Furious will do now is they'll stack up straight across the field, opening up lanes in the end zone and out of the end zone.
And here it comes spinning around, and Furious George with another score. They take a 3-1 lead here.
Again, that's just great play by Furious. You won't see too many mistakes by them. Wax did the best they could on that defense, but it's so hard to defend when you're right on the end zone.
And here's a look at the replay of that last score.
Disc curved around the defender and right into the hands of the receiver in the end zone.
Receiver was left open on that play because what they do is they have what's called a force, and they try and force so that the player throwing can only throw half of the field. In other words, they try and force him, we're going to call it home. And what he did was he broke that force. He threw around his defender, and the other defensive players are not ready for that. That's why he was so open in the end zone.
So a 3-1 lead for Furious George as Ottawa Wax gets set to receive. Wax, the defending national champions. Ottawa winning 2 out of 3 national championships last year in the women's division. Stella won. And in the Masters, or excuse me, 3 out of 4 was my Mule won. And Wax, of course, winning the open final.
This is potentially Wax's strongest line on right now.
Al Nichols with the pull. Now Sullivan will control. Sullivan looking for somebody to go to, and he'll go long down the middle of the field. And a spectacular catch made. And they didn't get it in the end zone, and Hoover is running forward. Oh, and Trevor Pound cannot come up with a catch. Crushank up the sideline to Kirk Savage.
Too deep, Mark! Too deep, Mark!
And this one is... Was that in bounds? I believe it was. Or no, it wasn't.
There was a foul called, so this will go right back to thrower. Chris, number 22 for Wax right now, is in a unique position because he's played with Furious at Worlds, so he knows all their plays, he knows all their players.
Here is Derek John. John into the middle of the field. Lugsdin goes into the end zone, and it is caught by number 12, Al Nichols, for a 4-1 lead for Furious George.
That really was a game breaker by Furious. Wax had it down in the end zone. They needed to get that in to stay with Furious. You'll see Furious start to go along and have a little more fun with their game now.
And there it is, coming down with both feet in bounds.
Yes, he caught the disc when he was in the air, dropped down, both toes touched inbounds. 4 point.
So 4-1 the score, and Ottawa Wax, I believe, calling a timeout. So if you're Wax, what do you do now at this point, trailing 4-1 with a bit of a backbreaker down at the other end? You had a point on your fingertips and you gave it away, and they come right back down and score.
What you'll see Wax do is they'll put those strongest line on again. Jamie Kelly